The battle for Sirith 9 was over. The skies were quiet, save for the drifting smoke from wrecked starships. Craters and fallen mechs littered the ground, and the once glowing fields of the alien world were scorched into black wastelands. Sergeant Cale Ryan, a hardened human warrior, staggered out of the debris, clutching his plasma rifle and wincing at the pain in his shoulder. The fighting had lasted for 3 days. 3 bloody, chaotic days. His unit was gone. All 24 of them. Evacuated, missing, or dead. Cale wasn't supposed to still be here. As he limped toward the broken remains of a downed alien transport, he heard a soft sound, like the chime of glass. He raised his weapon, unsure whether it was a trap. But what he saw next made him freeze. Inside the cracked hull of the transport, lying amidst shattered crystal and sparking wires, was a young woman. But she wasn't human. She had soft, silvery blue skin, faintly luminescent. Her hair flowed like living starlight. 2 long, curved horns adorned her temples, and her eyes, half open, were violet and glowing faintly. Azalthine, one of the enemy. Or so he thought. She was bleeding from her side, her breathing shallow and erratic. Her chest rose with difficulty, and her hand, delicate and trembling, pressed against a deep wound. Cale had fought her kind before. Sleek, swift, brutal warriors with psychic blades and biomechanical armor. But this one was unarmed. Dying. Her ceremonial robes were torn and scorched, and an emblem glimmered at her neck, the royal crest of House Servalari. A princess. Cale stared, torn between instinct and compassion. He'd seen war rob good men of mercy. He knew what the protocol was. Do not aid alien high command. Detain or eliminate. But this wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was a graveyard. And she was just a girl dying in the wreckage. Help, she whispered in broken English, her voice barely audible. Please. Cale hesitated. Then he knelt beside her, setting down his rifle. Her eyes fluttered. My name is Princess Lyra Servalari, she rasped. If I die here, the peace dies too. Cale didn't understand. But the desperation in her voice was real. Her pulse was weak. Her blood, an iridescent silver, soaked her side. Your kind's physiology, any medkit I have won't work, he muttered. I can't stop this. She looked at him with fear, then with a kind of determination. There is a way, but it is forbidden. Cale narrowed his eyes. What kind of way? Our ancestors once shared blood with humans in the ancient wars. A symbiosis. You bleed. I live. He blinked. You want my blood? It may bind me to you, she said, but I will survive. Cale stared. This was insane. Completely insane. But the war was already insane. He pulled out his knife without speaking and sliced across the palm of his hand. Lyra's eyes widened as his blood dripped into the open wound on her side. She gasped sharply. The silver in her veins pulsed and swirled. Her body arched, convulsing. Cale stumbled back, suddenly dizzy. A wave of energy passed between them, like a jolt of lightning. Then everything went black. He awoke sometime later, flat on the cold ground. But he wasn't alone. Lyra stood over him, her wound closed, her body radiant with light. But her eyes, they were different. She looked down at her hand and flexed it like she was discovering it for the first time. Cale, she said softly. His name in her voice startled him. How do you know my name? She touched her chest. Your blood carries memory. Fragments. Thoughts. Names. She paused. I saw everything. Your past. Your pain. The war. What they did to you. Cale sat up slowly. That was not part of the deal. She knelt beside him. Nor was this. She held out her hand. A sphere of blue energy formed in her palm. Then it shifted, sparks of red and gold mixed into the blue. Human and Zalthine. I am changed, she said. Not just healed. Bonded. Bonded. Kale repeated, his heart sinking. Like a soul bond? Something like it, she whispered. We share essence now. If I die, you may too. Kale exhaled. Of course. Figures. But even as the frustration rose in him, he could feel something deeper, something ancient stirring inside his veins. A power not his own. They had become something neither fully human nor fully Zalthine. Lyra led him through the wreckage to a hidden chamber beneath the crash site. There, a holographic console flared to life, revealing a secret peace treaty, negotiated before the battle, kept hidden from both sides. The war wasn't meant to happen. Lyra had been on her way to deliver it personally to the human High Council. But she'd been shot down by extremists within her own empire, those who profited from the chaos. And now she was the last witness. If I don't reach the council, your people will never know, she said. Kale clenched his jaw. Then we get you there. But I am royalty. They will hunt me. And now I'm not pure-blooded anymore, she said. My people may not accept me. Then it's a good thing I've been hunted my whole life, Kale replied. We'll go through the scorched zones. No sensors there. Kale, she said, touching his arm. If we fail, we both die. He met her gaze. Then let's not fail. The journey across the plains of Sirith, 9 was perilous. They faced rogue drones, mercenary scavengers, and storms that could strip flesh from bone. But something had changed in both of them. Kale's reflexes were sharper. His wounds healed faster. And Lyra could now manipulate matter in ways even her people thought impossible. At night, they shared memories without speaking. Dreams bled together. His childhood in the slums of Earth. Her lonely years behind Crystal Palace walls. They saw each other fully. By the time they reached the human outpost, they were more than just allies. They were fused in a way no science could explain. The outpost was under siege when they arrived. A rogue Zalthine faction had launched a surprise attack. The humans were outgunned, their lines crumbling. Kale and Lyra didn't hesitate. Together, they charged into the chaos. Lyra unleashed energy blasts that ripped through enemy tanks. Kale moved like a ghost, striking faster than thought. When they fought side by side, they were unstoppable, two beings linked by blood and purpose. The tide turned. After the battle, Kale collapsed from exhaustion, his body trembling from the strain. Lyra caught him. You gave me your blood, she whispered. Now I give you mine. She pressed her palm to his chest, and a surge of healing energy flowed into him. They were no longer just human or alien. They were something new. When the Human High Council saw the proof of the peace treaty and witnessed what Kale and Lyra had become, they were speechless and afraid. But the treaty was honored, not because of politics, but because of them. The human warrior who bled for an enemy princess, and the alien royal who risked everything to save a world not her own. Years later, legends would be told of the first human-Zalthine hybrid bond, of two souls entwined not by war, but by sacrifice. Kale and Lyra became ambassadors of a new era, symbols of what peace demanded and what it could create. And though some still called it unbelievable, those who had seen them fight together, bleed together, and love without borders, knew the truth. It had all begun with one drop of blood, and an act of mercy in the ashes of war. Ask ChatGPT. When a human warrior gave his blood to a dying alien princess, what happened next is unbelievable. Word count 1300. Genre sci-fi fantasy. Age of Rebirth AOR. The last skyship fell in flames, slicing the horizon of Sirith. 9 like a dying star. Sergeant Cale Ryan, drenched in ash and blood, crouched beside a burning husk of alien alloy. His pulse was thunder. His unit was gone, vaporized in the orbital strike meant to end the siege. He should have been dead, but fate had other plans. In the smoldering ruins, Cale heard a voice. Not a cry, not a groan, a whisper, delicate as starlight. Help. Weapon raised, Cale scanned the wreckage. Then he saw her. Half buried beneath twisted metal, blood shimmering like liquid moonlight around her, was a figure. Not human. Skin the color of dusk, hair like flowing silver fire, and eyes, violet and luminous. She wasn't just any Zalthine. She wore the royal crest of Servalari. A princess. Cale hesitated. His orders were clear: eliminate high-value alien targets. But her gaze wasn't defiant. It was pleading. I am not your enemy, she rasped. Please. His instinct screamed. She was of the enemy race that had devastated Earth colonies, incinerated cities. But in this moment, she wasn't a threat. She was dying. And Cale had seen too much death already. He dropped his rifle. Where are you hurt? He asked, approaching cautiously. She motioned weakly to her side, where plasma burns had torn deep into her abdomen. Her silvery blood pulsed erratically. No medkit will save me, she whispered. But there is a way. Cale narrowed his eyes. What way? A forbidden rite. Ancient. Our ancestors shared blood with off-worlders in the old wars. A symbiotic exchange. Your blood may revive me. Sounds like a myth, he muttered. Then let me die, she said, voice trembling. He stared. The war had taken everything from him. Friends, family, even faith. And yet, he unsheathed his knife and sliced his palm. Her eyes widened. Cale pressed his bleeding hand to her wound. At first, nothing. Then light. Violet and crimson swirled around them. The air warped. Energy crackled as her body arched, convulsed. A scream echoed from her lips as Cale felt someone enter his mind. Memories. Thoughts. Emotions not his own. Then darkness. He awoke to starlight and silence. Lying beside him, no longer broken, was the princess. Her wounds had sealed. Her skin glowed faintly. She looked more alive than any creature he had ever seen. You saved me, she whispered. Cale sat up, disoriented. You're in my head. Our minds touched during the bond, she said. Your blood carried memory. I saw your pain, your past. Cale clenched his fists. Stay out of my thoughts. I didn't choose it, she said softly. The right did. He looked at her warily. What happens now? She stood, surprisingly steady. Now we run. From what? From everyone. As they moved through the war-torn valleys of Sirith, 9, Cale learned her name. Lyra. Princess of a hidden Zalthine lineage, one that had sought peace, not conquest. She had been en route to deliver a secret treaty to the Human High Council, proof that the war was engineered by factions on both sides who thrived on chaos. But she was shot down before she arrived. Her own people had betrayed her. You are the last hope, Cale muttered. She looked at him. Now we both are. They traveled through scorched forests and across glass deserts, dodging patrols, scavengers, and storm raptors. Along the way, strange changes began. Cale's wounds healed faster. He could sense movement before it happened. And at night, he dreamed of stars that weren't his. Lyra was changing too. Her powers had grown stronger, less predictable. Where once she conjured light, now she wielded bursts of red fire tinged with Kale's emotion. "You're becoming something new," he said one night. "So are you," she replied. They reached the ruins of an old Zalthine spire, a pre-war temple now reduced to bones. Hidden beneath it was a vault containing the original treaty. As Kale opened it, Lyra collapsed, clutching her chest. "What's happening?" he demanded. "I think the bond is stabilizing," she gasped. "But it's merging more than just blood." She looked up at him, eyes glowing with both fear and wonder. "It's merging us." Kale backed away. "That wasn't the deal." "There is no deal. The right chooses." Before he could respond, the chamber exploded. A strike team had followed them. Elite assassins, neither human nor Zalthine. Mercenaries from the fringe worlds. Paid to make sure the truth never reached the council. Kale and Lyra fought like one. He moved before she thought. She struck before he blinked. Their bodies synced. Their minds fused. When the last mercenary fell, Kale stood in silence, hands shaking. "We're not just bonded," he said. "We're fused." Lyra nodded, solemn. "We're a third thing now. Not human. Not Zalthine. Something new." With the treaty in hand, they made a desperate sprint across the last continent, toward the human drop zone. The Council's dreadnought hovered in orbit, preparing to leave. If they missed it, the truth would vanish forever. But they were intercepted one last time. An Inquisitor-class Zalthine warbringer, flanked by drone hounds and flamewalkers, stood in their path. "You tainted yourself," the Inquisitor sneered at Lyra. "You are no princess. You are hybrid filth." Kale stepped in front of her. "Touch her, and I'll show you what that filth can do." They fought like gods. Kale, burning with human fury and alien grace. Lyra, a radiant storm of energy and will. In the end, the Inquisitor fell. Not by blade, but by Lyra's voice, empowered by the bond. A single word, ancient and true, cracked the sky and unmade her enemy's mind. They reached the Council dreadnought just as it was departing. Kale activated his last beacon. The signal pierced the stars. Within minutes, they were surrounded by human officers, guns raised, shouting warnings. Kale held up the treaty. Lyra stood tall beside him, her robe in tatters, her body glowing with hybrid light. "We come in peace," she said. "We come to end your war." The Council didn't know what to do with them. Half feared them, half revered them. But the evidence was real. The factions behind the war were exposed. The war ended, and Kale and Lyra became more than myth. They became the first bridge between species. Years later, historians would debate whether the bond was science, magic, or divine accident. But those who were there would never forget. The human warrior who gave his blood to save a dying alien princess. And what they became together. Unbelievable? Maybe. But sometimes the universe only moves forward when the impossible happens. And someone dares to bleed for peace.